Hello and welcome to this video. I thought that we'd do something a little different. I do an awful lot of vlogging in the car and such like, talking about various subjects. And I thought, why not talk about some positivity, about you, about us as humans, about the kind of things that are generally going on in the world, and how we can start appreciating who we are as humans and individuals. And so I thought I've got some sort of positive thinking ways of changing the way we think and the way that people think in general. And this comes partly because I meet a lot of people throughout the week. I do therapy for a lot of people. I talk to people a lot, and there seems to be a common theme running through a lot of videos that I watch of other people who are going through life problems and life changes, etc. And I think the answers are very much, as a therapist, psychotherapist, soon to be a hypnotherapist, a qualified hypnotherapist, there is a commonality between what I see with people that come for help, for people that come for insight, for people that come, to seek answers. I mean, at the end of the day, as humans, we try to live our lives, the best way we can, the way we know that we can feel happy. But there very often is reasons why that doesn't always work. And what I thought today would be to just touch on some of the things that I think are the most common denominators that I see arise again and again and again with people. I've been here in this particular state, as it were, of self-loathing, of feeling lost, you wanting to end it all, not for me personally, not to the point of anything to do with suicide, but just thinking, I want this to stop. I want the feelings that are going on inside me. I want my life to change. I want to get out of this vicious circle. I want to be, I want to be in a different place, basically. And there are common themes that seem to run through from the experiences that I have, or I went through and experienced myself, and what I see other people doing. So there's a few things that I'd like to read, because I think these are obviously paragraphs and wise words by other people who are a lot more articulate than me, and were able to put things into one or two sentences that I would struggle to do, to be honest with you. So I think these are things that are quite apt at the moment. The reason people find it so hard to be happy is that they always see the past better than it was, the present worse than it is, and the future less resolved than it will be. Now, if we just break that down, I think that's actually really quite apt for situations and phases of my life that I was actually going through, where and I see it in other people, where I kind of thought, well, things were better when I was young, things were better when I was X. We're talking, going back over years, where things always appeared to be really, really good and very happy. And then we always think that the present day is worse than what it was last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so we tend to sort of keep looking in the past, and this can trigger depression. it can make you depressed because you're kind of living and wanting to be in the past, instead of, and being fearful, if you like, of the present, and not being happy in the current state that you're in at the moment. I'm not going to be talking about, problems and such like. I'm trying to differentiate between problems that people are experiencing and if you like, the psychological state that we currently, that we are currently in. So, and then the future worrying and being fearful about the future and thinking that, things are not going to get better, that you feel that your current state is just continue on and probably get worse, can create a state of anxiety because you're worried about moving forward. You're currently thinking that things can't really get any worse, and you don't really see beyond that, and the future being any better than it is now. And then we're always wondering about the past and thinking that everything was better in the past and it can never be that in the future. So that's one state that we could potentially be in. So there's another paragraph here which I think is quite key. It says, stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start being excited about what could go right. Now that takes a change of thinking. It takes a bit of time for somebody to try and switch around their current state about being fearful and thinking that things can't actually get any worse right now, and to start thinking and changing the way you think about the future. So that's really the difference that makes the difference in the attitude of thinking, to try and stop worrying about what could go wrong all the time, whether that's in the present or whether that could be in the future, but being excited about what could go right, what could change for you in the future that would get you excited and positive, in a positive state. Another paragraph here is, stop hating yourself for everything you aren't and start loving yourself for everything you already are. This is a very good way of kind of inducing positive thoughts about the state that you're in right now. So if we can pull ourselves away from thinking that the past was better and stop worrying about what's happening in the future or what could potentially happen, get excited about what could go right for you in the future. But love yourself and accept for everything that you are right now, problems aside and all that, but kind of recognizing yourself that you have got where you are because of you, and that you've been able to cope. And you could have a mountain of problems to deal with, and you might think that it's never ending and that it can't get any worse. But at the same time, realize that things go in cycles. Everything goes round in cycles. And what we're worrying about today, we're not going to be worried about in the future. And very often we look back on, we tend to look back on the past as being a better place. So try to change that around and think, well, actually in the future I'm going to be looking back on my present state and thinking that was actually quite good. But of course, in the present state, if we're thinking negative, we're thinking that in a bad way. So changing and accepting our outlook on the future as being something to look forward to and to be excited about, and accepting as well that we should love ourselves for who we are and what we've achieved and where we've come from, and where we're going now, can change that attitude, that state, into a more positive state. And for some people, they need to be reminded of that on a regular basis. Maybe that's something that you put something like these statements up on a poster somewhere and have them in front of you. It's the first thing that you look at when you get up in the morning. Maybe it's something that you look at when you open the fridge for, your breakfast in the morning or something. Those little things can be positive steps towards a more positive attitude now and for the future. Some people would say that this is sort of and I would tend to agree, some people would say that it's a little bit like healing yourself, that, this is sort of self-development, this is self-healing, this is, a way, if you like, of self-meditating and changing the way you think about something. So another paragraph here, it says, the most powerful way to heal someone is to listen. And this can be applied to yourself as well. So listen to yourself. Don't think or judge, just listen. People start to heal the moment they feel heard. You can't be a healer if you refuse to step outside of your own emotions and view things entirely from the perspective of the other person. Now, this is kind of pointing to somebody as being an individual who wants to be a healer, but you can do this internally. Are you listening to yourself? What is it you are saying to yourself? This is quite key to understanding how you are thinking from day to day, how you are telling yourself that things were better in the past and nothing's going to get really better in the future. There's nothing to be excited about, there's nothing to look forward to in the future. So if you learn to listen to what's going on, and this is where contemplation or meditations come in, and we're not talking about sitting there for an hour, meditating over listening to yourself. You can do this very, very quickly. Listening is the great healer. The listening, not only as a psychologist, is one of the key elements to communicating with someone. Doesn't always have to be two ways, but if you listen, it's the stepping stone, it's the difference that makes the difference to start that ball rolling on healing. And you can do it yourself. This is the thing. If you learn how to listen to what's going on in your body, in your mind, what is it you are listening to all the time? So, about us as people, very often people will, you may have heard this yourself, people will say that you're lost, that you need to go and find yourself, that you need to go and, pull yourself together. People say all sorts of things that they don't really understand the impact of the words that they say. And I found this the other day, and I thought this was actually really, really good, about finding yourself. And of course there's plenty of books out there that seem to indicate that, we lose ourselves somewhere. What I like to do with people is to, and I've mentioned this in many videos, if you've watched, any more of my videos, I, as a psychologist, do not fix people. And any psychologist or therapist that says that they can fix you, effectively is lying. A good psychologist or a good therapist will help you to help yourself at the end of the day. We are basically, or in my opinion, a good therapist, a good psychologist is somebody who is a facilitator on you helping yourself. It's opening those doors, it's taking away those layers and layers and layers of filters or sort of negativity that's been surrounding you, so that you can actually find yourself, the original you that you wanted to be, or that you want to be. This sums it up really very, very well. Finding yourself is not really how it works. You aren't a $10 bill in last winter's coat pocket. You are also not lost. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that became your beliefs about who you are. These go pretty deep. But very often these things are so layered and layered and layered, conditioning, listening to other people, listening to yourself, and then believing what you're listening to as being, well, this is who I really am, I might as well accept it, I can't do anything about it. I hear all these things all the time. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself, which is absolutely true. An unlearning, an excavation, a remembering who you were before the world got its hands on you. I mean, that's so deep. So really what you're doing, I mean, people talk about the innocence of childhood and the growing up and the kind of innocence, the ignorance, if you like, when you're a child, you're living in this little bubble where nothing seems to really, nothing's kind of influencing you, and you have an outlook on life. And what happens over time, starting from childhood, is that things are happening externally all the time. People are saying things, your parents may have said things, your siblings may have said things, kids at school may have said things, bad teachers would have said things. All these words and such like would have influenced who you are as a person right now, making you believe that you weren't able to achieve things, that you were a useless person, that you're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z in your life. Worry about the future, you're not going to be this now if you can't do that in the future, and all those kind of things. And so really finding yourself is peeling away all those layers like an onion, almost like a bad old dried onion. Sort of peeling away all those layers of filters, of life, of conditioning, all of these things here that have been layered upon you throughout your whole life, and finding your true, the person who you are right inside. And that is what a therapist does. A therapist helps you to observe, know, listen, visualize, peel away all the things that you want to peel away, the things that you want to get rid of, the things that you want to explore, the things that you would like to bring out of yourself, and kind of shed all those shackles, all of those tie-ins, all of those bad filters that are going on, so that you can actually be the real person that you are inside and that you want to be. I hope that makes sense. There's a couple of things that I encourage people to do, and there are so many things that can be done with therapy. There's something here that Ralph Waldo Emerson said, which it says, for every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. And if you really think about that, that's actually really quite good. Again, we're talking about changing things around, looking at things in a different way, flipping the coin, flipping things over, telling yourself positive things, again, looking to the future with excitement about what could go right for you rather than what you think is going to be going wrong for you. And there's several things that you can do. I'm going to round this video up by a couple of things. I'm very heavily biased towards chakra meditation, because over the last 20-30 years I've learned that chakras are actually really, really important. The 7 main chakras that we have, everyone has them. If we can focus on those things, and of course they are tied to emotional states and conditioning and states of the mind and the physical body and such like, which when they're out of balance cause problems. And then you learn as you go along that when things are happening to you, whether it be an illness or whether physically or emotionally or psychologically is happening, they can very often be tied to a chakra imbalance. So and there's simple things that can be done, and I do this from time to time, and I tend to meditate a lot anyway, but this is something that you can do in the shower, and it's actually a shower meditation. So I'll read this again because it sums it up really, really well in a kind of couple of paragraphs. It says, every time you take a shower, visualize washing away your stress and anxiety. Concentrate on the feel of the water upon your skin. Envision the power of the water washing away your negative thoughts. Feel sadness, regret, anger, and depression washing right off of you. Let it all go down the drain. You'll start to feel lighter and much more clear. Now, if you have a bath or a shower or something along those lines, you can do this really, really quite quickly. It can be done within sort of 30 seconds to a minute, whereby you can just visualize the water, soap and such like, going over you and just taking away all those negative thoughts. Whether it's at the beginning of the day or the end of the day or both, or whatever that might be. Again, a very simple way of keeping that positive flow going through you throughout the day. And I'm going to round this up with the chakras. If you're not familiar with the chakras, the 7 main chakras, then there's plenty of documentation out there, but there's sort of 7 steps to happiness really with the chakras that you can do. And we start at the base, we start at the root chakra, and we can flip things over. Okay, so from the root chakra, fear less, love more. So the negative side would be to fear, to have fear. And then obviously on the other side to love. So a lack of love, a great amount of fear would affect your root chakra. So fear less, love more. The sacral chakra, complain less, appreciate more. The solar plexus, which is sort of the stomach area, navel area, watch less, do more. And then the heart chakra, judge less, accept more. The throat chakra, talk less, listen more. And then the third eye chakra, frown less, smile more. And then the crown chakra, think less, feel more. So I quite like the way that the way that you can change things around is to be in the moment more, appreciate where you are, and think about the future as something that's exciting. That things are going to be good for you, things are going to be right for you. Think about the positive things that are going to happen, rather than focusing on the negative. And that way you're kind of moving in the right direction with coping with anxiety, but also, if you like, taking away the risks of depression or lessening the risk of getting depressed by keep worrying about the past or keep thinking about the past all the time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe there was something there that you liked, or could glean from insightful, that would, help you on your path, as it has done myself. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again in another video.